Hi, my name's Pete. I watched your video, Is AI Destroying the Music Industry, the other night. And I've got to say, it was so profoundly thought provoking and compelling. I am a retired dude, but strictly a hack musician. But I'm also a recovering lawyer, and I spent many years sort of trying to discern both sides of an issue when a complex issue like the one you discussed was presented. So I find this whole discussion really fascinating. At first, I'll say uh, I was really interested in the question you posed that sort of tees up an issue that you may or may not be surprised to know you share with lots of people in lots of other professions. In addition to being sort of a hack musician, I'm also fascinated with matters of the universe, right? So I watch a lot of YouTubes by Neil deGrasse Tyson type folks, hey, here's what's happening in space, and let me explain it and break it down for a non-STEM person to kind of get. For my money, one of the best scientist educators on the face of the planet is a guy named David Kipping, who's a cosmologist. He teaches at Columbia University. About a year ago, he posted a video that asked the same question about scientists as you pose about musicians. Is AI going to replace scientists in the study of the cosmos? And his position was, and I don't mean this word as harshly as it sounds, was kind of protectionist, as yours seemed to be about protecting musicians, and quite understandably. What was interesting to me was his rationale was essentially this: hey, I recognize the machines can do it better, smarter, faster, cheaper, and in his case, sometimes with public money, that's really good. But even though they can do all these things better, that's not why I, David Kipping, became a scientist. I became a scientist because I enjoy the process of discovery. And the rhetorical question I presented him, and it arose in my mind when in that case was, hey, I get that you, as a scientist, worked really hard to get this credential and you're passionate about it and you enjoy discovery. But if I'm a parent of a sick child who's in Shriners or St. Jude's, I appreciate the fact that you enjoy personal discovery and this makes you feel good and fulfilled. But I would prefer a cure to my child's disease found tomorrow by AI than one you may never get to in the next 10 or 15 years. As applied.
Were I to invoke logic, logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
As applies to music and the creation of music, for years, I think humanity has been very comfortable in trusting the displacement of people by machines when it comes to boring, repetitive processes, working in a textile mill or building cars or harvesting fields or a whole host of things that, if you look back, used to be done by human beings with their hands. Carpenters and brick masons, when they built something, that was their signature. People who made shoes for a living, people who took care of horses and buggies and helped folks get around. All of these, in one way, shape, or form, were art like or artisan like uh, avocations by people who had passion about what they were doing and didn't like the notion of being replaced when technology came along and replaced them. But the other side of that coin is, in so doing, when technology did that replacement, it also made these things available to so many more people and in on a scale that would have been incomprehensible. Everything that makes up the fabric of all of our daily lives is probably made up of stuff that used to be done by people with their hands that in some way, shape, or form is now done by technology. So one of the questions I would ask is, in much the same way that I learned how to use some of the tricks and tips that are in Persona Studio One, the little DAW that I work with. Um, it helps me do things that I didn't study, I was not trained musically enough to be able to do myself. But it helps me still tell stories that are born in my heart and my mind and born of my life experience. So if I'm a kid in a marginalized community who now for $14 a month can translate hardships in my life or challenges I've overcome using a tool that on an app that I can get with money I work in a part-time job and pay for, that helps translate my experience about which I feel passionate into music or writing or something like that, that the larger world can grab. Is that a bad thing? You know, if what we're saying is let's keep AI out of the music industry because musicians who have, you know, worked long and hard to master skills and now occupy a very rarefied talent set justifiably want to earn the benefit of the hard work they've invested. I mean, that's completely understandable. But what's on the other side of the coin? You know, are we keeping the ability to create in a tiny little box by holding back technology, when if opening the box, some of those creators are obviously going to be injured by that, but you're going to make the ability to create available to such a larger audience? I don't know. I don't have the answer. But I really, really enjoyed your video, and I wanted to offer some hopefully thought-provoking comments in response. Again, keep making those vids. I love them. I look forward to see what you do next time.